Here it is, the new 2020 Nissan Juke, and we've been looking forward to taking a look at this car because obviously it's quite popular, and we know why it's popular because it looks different. You know, stylistically, it stands out, and it's often said that a lot of small and medium SUVs are quite derivative in its styling sense. This certainly isn't, and there's a reason that it's popular with buyers. Now, there's one engine across the range, a lot of different trim and specification grades though and standard equipment, but the thing we're most excited about, the thing I'm most excited about, is testing the 1 litre 3-cylinder engine. The entry-level Nissan Juke ST starts from $27,990 plus on-road costs, with the ST Plus and STL increasing to $30,740 and $33,940 respectively, both before on-road costs. The range tops out with the Nissan Juke TI, which starts from $36,490 plus on-road costs. The new Juke is 75mm longer, 30mm wider and 30mm taller than the old model. Depending on model grade, you get 17 or 19-inch alloy wheels, an 8-inch touchscreen with Apple CarPlay, Android Auto and voice recognition, along with a choice of cloth or leather accented trim. Before we take it for a drive though, let's have a look at the cabin. Now, the second row specifically, I've set the front seat up for my driving position, so that's set up for someone who's about 6 foot, 6'1", and as you can see, I've actually got a reasonable amount of room back here. I've got enough foot room under the seat that I can slide my feet back and forward. I've got enough knee room. I'm not actually into the back of the seat, which is also quite impressive, and headroom is good. I'm not touching the roof back here, and crucially, despite the sort of rake of the roofline, I don't feel like I'm down buried in a cave or anything. There's actually quite a good view outward, and there's enough light coming into the car. The second row seat itself is really good. It's not too flat in the base. The backrest is not too upright, so you're actually pretty comfortable. And while it's obvious this is a compact SUV, yes, the new Juke is a little bit longer than the old one, this is still a compact SUV, so the amount of room that you've got back here is pretty impressive. Up front in the driver's seat, there's a couple of things that are worth pointing out. First of all, once you get yourself in position and you're set up where you want to be driving, you actually feel more like you're in a sports car than an SUV, and that's got a lot to do with the driving position itself, the way you sit down into the cabin, the seats, the steering wheel, I guess the fact that there's Alcantara here as well, but this certainly doesn't feel like a regular SUV to be sitting in and driving. I really like some of the touches in the cabin. I think some of those dramatic visual styling cues from the outside have made their way inside in the swoops and curves of the dashboard. The Alcantara trim, we're in the top spec TI of course, so you get Alcantara trim. I really like that. And I think it's pretty well executed, even though this still remains an SUV. I think the fact that it's designed the way that it is hides a little bit of what it really is under the skin. Now the controls, obviously the gauge layout's pretty simple and easy to understand. I think the steering wheel controls have been well laid out also. There's not too many buttons and it doesn't look too complex through there. You get a really good quality infotainment display with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto of course. And then the next level of control functionality down here is all your climate control stuff. So I think that is pretty well laid out also. As we saw in the second row, I think the other feature that you really notice once you're in the front row is it feels like a pretty light and airy cabin. So it's a compact SUV, it is small, there's no doubt about that. But when you're inside the car, it doesn't feel that way at all. Now, the proof, as always, will be in the driving. So let's head out and take a look at that punchy little 3-cylinder engine, which is always a favourite of ours, and hopefully it's just as good in the Juke as we're expecting it to be.
All variants of the new Juke are powered by a 1 litre turbocharged 3-cylinder engine, which generates 84 kilowatts and 180 newton metres, driving through the front wheels with a 7-speed dual-clutch automatic transmission. You also get paddle shifters. Unlike the current generation, Nissan will not offer an all-wheel drive variant for the new generation Juke, so it's front-wheel drive only.
I said when I was sitting in the driver's seat of the Nissan Juke that it felt more like a sports car than an SUV, and funnily enough, it feels a little bit more like a sports car to drive than an SUV as well. The best 3-cylinder engines have always had this character about them. They've got a real vitality and a life about them that you can feel when you're driving, and this 3-cylinder feels exactly like that. But it's not just the engine. The engine feels zippy and fizzy and it's got that rorty little note about it when the revs climb, but the gearbox is really good too. DCT's don't always work with small engines as well as it seems to work in this application. So there's another tick there as well. And then of course, things like the steering, the braking, the way it rides. This top spec car's on 19-inch rims, so it's probably a little firmer than it might otherwise be if it was on smaller wheels and chubbier tyres. But I still think it rides really well. When you're at 80 or 90 kilometres an hour, it's pretty quiet, it's quite insulated. But all in all, this is a really impressive little SUV to drive. And as I said, I think the point that needs to be made is it doesn't really feel like an SUV. It feels a lot more like a sporty driving experience. And I think the kind of person that wants to buy a Nissan Juke is really going to appreciate that.
A comprehensive safety suite is also included as standard, featuring forward collision warning, autonomous emergency braking for pedestrians and cyclists, lane departure warning and lane keep assist, rear cross traffic alert, and a rear-facing camera and parking sensors. As such, the new Juke gets a 5-star ANCAP rating.
So I guess the question is the new Nissan Juke better than the old model? And for me anyway, it's an unequivocal yes. I actually liked the old Juke. I liked the quirky styling. I think the sharp angles work really well, and I think that's why it was popular with a lot of buyers. But this new Juke is a better vehicle. Now sure, 84 kilowatts and 180 Newton meters aren't stratospheric numbers, and of course there's no all-wheel drive model now, it's just front-wheel drive. But this 3-cylinder engine is characterful. I love the personality of it. It's a fantastic little thing to drive, and it's matched really well to the 7-speed DCT as well. That gearbox works really well in this application. Plus the fact that it's bigger and it's grown up a little bit, I think suits it really well. It makes more sense. So for me, I definitely think this is better than the Juke that it replaces. Let us know what you think in the comments section below, and we're looking forward to spending a bit more time with this when we get one into the CarAdvice garage. In the meantime, follow us on Instagram and Facebook, click subscribe on our YouTube channel so you keep up to date, and stay tuned to CarAdvice.com for more reviews and details.